Hello, everybody. Mr. H here with you. Welcome to U.S. History 1. How you guys doing today? I'm doing great. I get to talk to you guys about history. But before we get into history, I got a question for you. Why do we study this stuff? There's two answers. One, you need it to graduate, so that makes it kind of important. But two, you study history to see why things happen. That way you keep the bad stuff from happening again, and then you find a way to replicate the good stuff. Now, when you study historical events, here's two important concepts you need to know: objectivity and subjectivity. Objective, not influenced by personal feelings, judgments, or opinions in considering or representing the facts. I.e., the Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Baltimore Ravens 23 to 16. Objective. That's exactly what happened. Who was involved, what happened, end result, moving on. Subjective. The heroic Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the disease-ridden slime known as the Baltimore Ravens 24 to 16. All right, that's subjective, opposite. That's definitely personal feelings getting mixed up in there too, and I think I gave the Steelers an extra point on that one. All right, so if you study an event, you have to be objective. You have to see what's going on in order to understand what is happening. Why did it happen? How do you keep it from happening? Or maybe how we can make it happen if it's something good. And you have to know that, especially with American history, because you will deal with some disturbing things that will upset you. Genocide of Native Americans and slavery, for instance, right? How did this happen? Why did it happen? Make sure it doesn't happen again. And there's some good stuff too. Advances in medicine and how people changed their view on slavery. That's a good thing too, right? See how that happened. What happened to make this positive thing come along? So objective and subjective, it's hard to be 100% objective. I mean, I understand that. I mean, wait till we get to U.S. too, and you get to see Mr. H on the hot seat when we talk about Nazis, right? Shot my grandparents. Don't really like them very much, but hey, you have to sit there and study to see why it happened, to keep from happening again. Do you know I had to sit through a class in graduate school called the Fall of the Weimar Republic and Rise of Hitler? Yeah, do you think I like that? No, I didn't. But hey, you study it to make sure stuff like doesn't happen again, right? And you will never change my opinion on the Baltimore Ravens. Moving on. Alrighty, North America. That's where you live. If you didn't know that, just smile, nod, and pretend you did. Live here, by the way, North Carolina. Now, North America is basically one big bowl. You've got two mountain ranges. You've got the Appalachians, which are very solid and hard to get through. There's the Cumberland Gap up this way, courtesy of an asteroid strike 380 million years ago. Here are the Rockies. They're much bigger, but you have lots of mountain passes going through. The bad news is, if you go through these mountain passes after the 4th of July, you're going to get caught in the snow, and you'll probably end up eating each other before you die. Just a little bit of spoiler alert in case you get sent back in time. We got lots of rivers here in North America. Here's the Mississippi. It's the longest one on our continent. Here's the Ohio. Over here's the Missouri. See, it's a big bowl. Everything drains out here through the bottom down near New Orleans. Got all kinds of different climates. Hot, humid over here. Hot, dry out this way. Rains all the time in the Northwest. Up here, get really cold. I can tell you that from personal experience, especially here in PA. So all kinds of climates over here, all kinds of terrain. And another thing you need to know is that the further west you go, the drier it gets until you get to the Pacific coast over here. So lots of rain over here. See, it's how green it is. And then it starts turning more and more tan as you get to the Great Plains out here. All right, so here's North America for you. Pretty big, lots of different kinds of terrain, lots of rivers, big enough for everybody involved. Now, the first Americans came over from Siberia. That's right. Native Americans' ancestors from Siberia, Lake Baikal region, apparently, according to DNA studies. And they always talk about the land bridge from Asia to North America. When you hear Bering Land Bridge, the Bering Strait, everyone starts thinking it's like the George Washington Bridge or something. No, this is a lot of land over there. People, lived here and died here. And the reason this even exists because during the Ice Age, when the glaciers were advancing, it's like a sponge in a bowl, right? You put the sponge, you see how it absorbs the water, and the water level drops. That's what happened. The water level drops and pushes the coastline out about a couple hundred miles all around. So people have been migrating across here. It's not organized. I mean, they're chasing the woolly mammoth or getting chased by a saber-toothed tiger. They're just following the animals along and they're coming over to North America. We know the route they took because there's two gaps in the ice. We know these gaps exist because, we find the artifacts and bones and everything in two direct lines. Some people say some people probably, sailed over a little bit, which is possible. But if you're bringing your family and everything, they're coming down through here. So they're going to make it to North America and spread throughout North America, eventually Central America and South America. When did American history begin? People tend to say Columbus a lot, and I get to say, wrong answer, right? 10,000 BC, circa. This little C means about, approximately, BC before Christ, right? Birth of Christ after Christ is AD. Sometimes BCE, but it's just extra work, right? So somewhere around circa 10,000 BC, people are already over here. Sometimes even further back, 20,000 BC, some would argue. I mean, they could easily be right. But everybody agrees that definitely humans running around here in North America, Native Americans' ancestors around circa 10,000 BC. So the woolly mammoth and saber-toothed tiger, this is a mastodon actually, are all part of American history. And this guy became part of American history a little bit before everyone else. Yep, not a good day for this guy. Now, the Ice Age mammals died out between 8 and 10,000 BC. The glaciers had receded, and then the land bridge is gone, and the coastline is 200 miles inland. Why did they die out? Climate change. The most efficient predator the world has ever seen right here on two legs, human beings, right? Spears and all kinds of those things, probably why. So after the Paleo Indians around the Ice Age, we have what we call Archaic Indians around 6,000 BC. Instead of hunting big game, these guys are going after medium-sized things like rabbits and deer and turkeys. And they're also very good at finding berries. And believe it or not, agriculture is going to find its way over to the Americas. Just like the old world, new world, agriculture is a game changer. And why is it a game changer? Because now I don't have to chase after the food or get chased by the food occasionally. What's the big crop everybody finds here in the Americas? In Europe, it was wheat. Europe, Middle East, it was wheat. Asia, it's rice. All right, what are they going to find over here? Here, it's going to be corn. Corn is the big crop over here. Mesoamerica, Middle America, Central America. These societies are the ones who produce corn surpluses somewhere around circa 2000 BC. Why Central America? Oh, there goes the fire alarm. That was not us. All right. Mesoamerica, Central America is good climate. It's warm there all the time, so you could actually grow lots of corn. And if your food supply is assured, you've got free time. You go out and hunt the mammoth or do some fishing, and if you don't get it, then okay, so what? You got to come home, you got corn, right? Before corn, you would have starved to death. Now the hunt isn't such a big deal. And now you've got time to do other things. Think about math, astronomy, and religion. Religion, how do we get here? Nighttime, look at the sky, you see stars. What are they doing there? And then you start counting stars. That's where math comes from. Around circa 1200 BC, the Olmecs are the first organized civilization in Mesoamerica. We start finding ruins. That means people now know how to build things, engineering. Down in South America, before you have the Inca, we got the Chavan, their ancestors. We don't really know much about them, but we do know they are down in South America circa 1200 BC. Human beings have now gone to every single corner of the planet except Antarctica. Then again, you see that movie, Alien versus Predator, and apparently they did, but that's just a movie. Or is it? Now, getting closer to Columbus. Mexico City is where the city is now. Before then, all right, say this 10 times. Teotihuacan. I won't hurt you for spelling. We have a city-state down there around 500 AD, the same time the Roman Empire was collapsing. What's so great about the area near Mexico City? There's a big lake there. We got water, the climate's okay, and obviously agriculture. And so that means your population is increasing. Another part in Mexico that had a lot of human beings walking around, the Maya, is going to be the Yukon Peninsula. Yucatan, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about something else, looking at the map. Yucatan. 23,067 different varieties of corn. Yeah, somebody's got a lot of free time. I saw a book that listed all of these. I'll just take their word for it. 23,067 varieties of corn. Lots of food means you got free time thinking about astronomy, math, the concept of zero, hieroglyphic writing. Yes, Mayan writing looks like hieroglyphics. Got time to write stuff down, invent an alphabet. Religion, and time to build stuff like this. The Pyramid of the Sun. Look at the size of this thing. It's huge. So they had to be organized. They had to be able to feed people. They weren't hunting. They were getting food from what? From the corn, right? They know about architecture. They know about engineering. And look at the size of this thing. Later on, the Aztecs going to use it for human sacrifice. Oh, how much human sacrifice? A lot, right? So much and so much blood came down this thing. Actually wore the steps down. So if you ever climb in this thing, be careful. Steps are much smoother than they should be. Think about it. Speaking of Aztecs, right there, here we are, Tenochtitlan. It's where Mexico City is. Nice climate. What's up this way? Desert. Over here, jungle. So these people kind of get wedged together. And if your agriculture is working, then you end up with more people. More people, more problems. They're all crammed together. We've got conflict. And the Aztecs aren't just in the conquest. They take people and they sacrifice them on top of that temple. Human sacrifice. They rip out the still beating heart. As not just one person. They've got an assembly line because the gods are clearly angry. And what are they angry about? We look at tree rings and the polar bears that pull out of the ice caps up there in the Arctic, and you can get an idea of what the climate was like different times in history. And apparently in North America, there's this huge drought, somewhere from about 1100 AD to 1400 AD, that causes a lot of problems. If you really want to wreck an ancient civilization, drought will do it because that affects the agriculture, right? So the gods are upset and you pray to them, you try to propitiate the gods, you do everything you can, and then you start sacrificing to them to show you how much devoted they are. You start up with nice fruit and stuff, and then you work your way up to animals. Before you know it, they sacrifice one person, and before you know it, you've got the assembly line going on over here at the Pyramid of the Sun. All right. And how do you think the Aztec neighbors feel about it? It's bad enough when someone conquers and takes stuff from you, but now they're going to drag you up a pyramid to rip your still beating heart out. Yeah, you don't have a lot of friends around here, do you? And there's a lot more of them than there are of you. Wait till Cortez shows up. Different story down in South America. Here we got the Inca. And the Inca have a really good situation here, man. Look at this. Now, corn was the big crop up there, Central America and North America. What's the big crop down in South America? They've got some corn, but they found something else that people really like. All right, next time you go to Wendy's somewhere, what are you going to get with your hamburger? Yep, you got your French fries, potatoes. The big crop down here is potatoes. And they live next to the Pacific, which means they're eating a lot of fish and a lot of potatoes. A lot of protein, a lot of carbohydrates, big, strong, healthy people. We know this from the graves and, yes, mummies we have found in South America. And look at this. Very good with architecture and engineering because you need flat land to grow stuff. You're in the Andes Mountains over here, okay? So they construct their own flat land to grow things. Look at this. Strong, healthy, smart people, the place to live in the 1500s, the Inca Empire. Even had their own form of social security. It's fun to be an Inca. Inca Empire. They start off conquering stuff. Before you know it, people are volunteering to join the Inca Empire. Even had their own road system here, kind of like I-95, trade going up and down all over the place. Got corn, all sorts of stuff from North America to potato. It's awesome. Head on up here back to the USA. What's going on there? Now in the Southwest, it's kind of a dry sort of place anyway. So the Hohokam culture, somewhere around Arizona and New Mexico, they built a lot of irrigation canals and towns. Again, well organized, very good with engineering. I don't know why they didn't go where the water was, but they brought the water to them. The Pueblo culture followed behind the Hohokam. We don't know really what happened to them, just they're sort of faded out. And the Pueblo culture, as you can see, are very good at building things as well. Look at this. They built underneath this rock shelf and everything here, so it must get some rain. Well, there's that drought again I was telling you about. Look at that, 1300, 1400. and the whole thing went into decline and they sort of disappeared. Again, it's that drought causing problems all the way across North America. You like this picture? It's an awesome picture, isn't it? I took that picture. All right, over in the eastern woodlands, we got the mound builders. Who are these guys? Well, good question, not sure. Built these huge mounds as burial mounds. We had no idea they were there, just saw a hill and plowed through it to build a highway. And we did this quite a few times and destroyed countless artifacts before we realized what it was. So we're still trying to figure out who these people were and why they built these huge mounds. Again, well organized, religion, got a workforce you had to feed, couldn't go hunting all the time. So there's a mysterious sort of civilization operating around in the southeastern U.S. Poverty Point, Louisiana, mounds dating back to circa 1200 BC. Found wooden artifacts, did the carbon-14 dating, and comes back about 1200 BC. Up in the Ohio River Valley, circa 400 BC, the Adena culture. They named an insurance company for that for some reason. But look where they are. They're near the Ohio River, right? Just like the old world, civilization is going to follow the rivers. After the Adena, we got the Hopewell culture going down the Ohio River Valley over to the Midwest, somewhere around circa 100 BC. The date is still disputed. See, they're following the rivers. Same thing they would do in the old world, following the Tigris, Euphrates, or Yellow and Yangtze River. Same thing's happening here because, hey, that's where your agriculture is, right near the river. Give the water, transportation. Now, we have the thing called the Mississippian culture. Why? It's on the Mississippi River, centered on a site called Cahokia near St. Louis. We don't really know much about it because they built St. Louis right on top of it. What we have been able to figure out, though, is that there was a civilization there, and somewhere from 900 to 1200 it sort of disappeared. Why? Because of the drought again. That drought that's causing problems in the Americas. And why would they build it near St. Louis? Well, same reason St. Louis is there. Three rivers coming together, right? The Ohio, the Missouri, and the Mississippi's already there. So, hey, people are clearly trading along the rivers. Their own civilization. It's just like Mesopotamia and all of that from World History 1. You remember that, right? Or did you take the exam and forget it already? It's okay, I won't hold it against you. Out on the prairies, it's a different story up there. Agriculture doesn't really make much of a dent in the society out there. Still hunters and gatherers. Instead of corn or wheat, what do they have out there? They got the buffalo. Usually they hunt the buffalo one at a time, and sometimes you drive them off a cliff. What's the good thing about driving buffalo off a cliff? Yeah, they're at the bottom of the cliff, and I could just, get a lot of meat at once. Sometimes it's way too successful, a lot of stuff will start rotting. But when they do kill a buffalo, they use every single part of it because, you don't know if you can, these things are pretty big, man. You don't know if you can actually just walk up and kill one. There's a couple errors in these pictures. You seen them yet? Yeah, they don't get the horse until around 1500 or so after the Spanish lose a few. But, they used to run after them with spears and then the bow and arrow. And then when they get on the horse, it's a lot easier. And then, of course, they get their hands on rifles around 1700 or so. I'm not sure what this guy's doing with the bat right here. He's going to pop it right in the face, it looks like. Well, like you said, you like the bison burgers? Look how they make them. Now, Columbus gets the credit for coming over here first, but there were other Europeans before Columbus, and we know exactly who they were. They were the Vikings. Somewhere around 1000 AD, they showed up on the northeast quadrant of North America, up around Labrador. They may have made their way as far south as Maine. We don't know who started the fighting, but these are Vikings, so, that's a pretty good guess. And as you guessed, they did not part as friends. But the point I'm trying to make is people are starting to reach their way over towards North America. Little by little, inch by inch, they're going to get over here. The Vikings show up circa 1000. They tried a couple settlements, it just couldn't work out. The Vikings are really good at operating over long distances, but let's face it, it is just too far from Norway all the way to North America. You know what the climate's like, and it's not easy sailing through the North Atlantic every single day. Some other people may have gotten here before Columbus. They look at the Olmec heads. A lot of people think they're of African origin, though we can't seem to find any legends on the African side to confirm this. In 1421, Wang He from China may have showed up on the North American west coast. This is speculative because you know what an anchor looks like. Well, Chinese anchors are different. They're a big, almost like a circle almost, and they had to drill a hole through the middle. Well, they found some of these off the west coast, and they think maybe, just maybe, a disc, I should say, maybe could be Chinese ships that were over there, and they're thinking 1421, but can't find a chain or anything. So it's, it could be natural, could be unnatural. We're not really sure. In 1480, the Portuguese may have actually landed in Brazil without realizing it. We've got a source where I read where they were hit by a huge current of fresh water out in the middle of the South Atlantic, so obviously there's a river, and it wasn't coming from Africa, it was coming from the west, so they found it, and before you know it, they may have been walking around in Brazil, and that river was probably the Amazon. And of course, the English may have landed in Newfoundland around 1485. We have a story here where they landed on some island nobody knew about, were out there drying out the nets, were approached by people and had trade, and everybody had a great time. I don't know what went wrong after that. So the point I'm trying to make here is people did make contact with North America before Columbus, and that contact was inevitable. If it wasn't Columbus, it would have been somebody else. Sooner or later, the New World was going to reach out and join hands with the Old World. The Europeans were coming, and it was just a matter of time. Okay, this is chapter 1, and I'll see you in chapter 2 in just a bit. Have a great day.